We have quite a few games coming this September, and some of them I wanted to talk about today in this video, but I also wanted to touch on my experience with other titles that are upcoming in the future while at Gamescom. First up, we have Arashi from developers Endeavour One, which is also now being published by Skydance, and thank you to them for sponsoring this video. Arashi was originally released on the PSVR and is still the only game that could be the answer to a call for a long-awaited Tenchu style ninja game in virtual reality, and from memory it did tick a lot of boxes but was let down by some bugs and some other odd choices. Maybe some of those choices were to do with simply being on the Move controllers due to lack of joysticks, but as I understand it, the developers continue to update the game for over a year after it was released, and some of the issues I had were improved. Well, now Arashi is coming to PSVR2, and I went hands-on at Skydance's booth, and visually the game is looking much nicer, and Haru, your faithful canine companion, looks more animated and cute than ever. The colours and blacks of the PSVR2 look particularly awesome, and since this game was quite the looker back in its day, it's great to see the game updated and getting some visual clarity thanks to today's technology. When it comes to the combat of Arashi, it's a mix of stealth and counter moves, mostly using a katana, but you do have other weapons like shurikens and a bow and arrow. My playthrough mostly consisted of using the bow and arrow and the katana, but a lot of the other stuff was still locked away. After going hands-on with this demo, I'm much more excited to check it out when it comes out later this year. And now it's on to one of my favourite things to do in VR, and that is platforming. A couple of weeks ago I made a video highlighting what I loved most about platforming in VR, and how Astrobot set the bar and still really hasn't been bettered. And now the developers of one of the most known and watched VR games, Richie's Plank, is making a platformer called Max Mustard. And while I'm not entirely sold on the name of the game, even in its early state, I was massively impressed with what they have achieved, and it's really beautiful in the headset. The great animation is mostly what won me over, followed by the unlockable moves and the interactions. If you love platformers, you can stick Max Mustard in your list of upcoming VR games to keep an eye on. I also went hands-on with Powerwash Simulator from Endreams in co-op with Mike from the VR Oasis, and it is really shaping up nicely, and it will be exactly what you expect if you played it on a flat screen now translated into VR. Lots of cleaning with lots of different nozzles and attachments to wash away lots of stubborn dirt, and I'm hoping to provide you guys with some gameplay and info very soon. Now onto my most anticipated September releases. First up, we have Hellsweeper, which releases later this month on the 21st, coming to PSVR2 and the Meta Quest 2, and most likely will be updated for Quest 3 down the line. And this is probably my most anticipated title of the month. This game has undergone so many updates in its development cycle, and now with the inclusion of co-op pushed into the mix of what I can only describe as one of the most creatively beautiful games I've played in a very long time, this game should definitely be on the hotly anticipated list for anyone this September. You may have missed it, but I did do a hands-on gameplay video of Hellsweeper about a month ago where I got to play around with the dog and kill lots of enemies, doing backflips and all sorts of crazy tricks.
Look, what's this? What's this? Cool. I mean, you constantly look evil, but I kind of like you. I mean, look at that little nose you got there.
And I'll leave a link to that in this video description. And it's absolutely wowed the shit out of me. This game has the best and most diverse movement system of any game I've played, and sharing it with a friend, I'm certain will be pretty insane. Next up, we have Inverse, coming on September 7th, and it very much looks like an unofficial game from Stranger Things, and is described as an asymmetric multiplayer horror game where one of you plays as the null creature and the rest of you are agents, and you've got to try and stop the null creature from killing everyone. I have played a very early build of this, and it's lots of fun, and it very much feels like a Dead by Daylight style game in VR. And one thing I definitely remember is a hell of a lot of screaming.
The creature. It's behind me!
Next up, we have Behind the Frame, coming September 14th, and it's coming to all VR platforms and is described as a vivid, interactive fiction game about an aspiring artist on the cusp of finishing the final piece of her gallery submission. Become immersed in a panoramic world filled with resplendent colours, beautiful hand-animated visuals, and a smooth, easy-listening soundtrack. You must play a passionate artist and seek the missing colours that will bring your paintings to life, all the while to take the occasional coffee and breakfast break to keep you going. There is definitely more going on than what meets the eye here. I'm a big fan of the lo-fi YouTube channel, just watching that animation on loop and listening to that lo-fi music and chilling out. And this game looks like it's going to be taking elements of that chill factor, beautiful animation and some fantastic music and making it into a VR game, including some puzzles. So I'm really excited to check this out. Next up, Pixel Rip 1995 is getting an enhanced edition on PSVR2 later this month on September 12th. And for my generation, this is the best game in the series since it featured 16-bit games from the Sega Mega Drive, or Sega Genesis as my US family members refer to it, and the Super Nintendo. And then it also has 32-bit games from the original PlayStation and 64-bit era. I can't recommend this game enough, and I'll definitely be checking it out. Make sure you look out for myself as a collectible card inside the game. Broken Edge, which is already available on Steam and Quest, is coming to PSVR2 on September 19th, and I was lucky to be part of the team testing and making trailers while working at Fast Travel Games last year. This is one of those games where the art style looks absolutely fantastic in the headset, and unlike many other sword wagglers in VR, this is all about learning the techniques and stances of the warrior you embody, and then learning and using unique special moves of each character to break your opponent's weapon, and then eventually striking them down. The game originally launched with only 4 to 5 characters, but that roster has now grown with updates, and when it launches on PSVR2 you get the complete roster of 9 fighters. It's currently priced at £8 for PS Plus users, or £12, which I think is a great deal for this title. Ruins Magus is already available on Quest and Steam and was one of my favourite games of last year. The graphics were way better than I expected for Quest, and I'm very excited to see what it looks like in PSVR 2. You play a member of the renowned Ruins Magus Guild. Your goal is to help strengthen the guild with magic and resources. There's 25 quests that see you face off against guardians, some of which are absolutely massive, and you got to protect the ruins from the intruders inside the dungeons. When you've succeeded, you head to the surface to hand in your missions, and then you get to acquire new items and upgrade your equipment. Ultimately, I think anyone who hasn't picked this up should take a look at some gameplay, which I'll leave in this video description. And last but not least on my upcoming games for September you need to know about is Alvo. It's coming on September 14th for PSVR 2 and is currently also available on Quest. Considering this game launched way back when the original PSVR was using the aim controller exclusively, the developers have worked to add all things like manual reloading and extra game modes to keep players coming back. You may be wondering, why should you care with Pavlov and Firewall in your competitive shooting library? This is one of the fastest FPS games you can play in VR. There is very little to no downtime during gameplay, and with things like jumping and sliding, it kind of feels like a little bit by Black Ops, but I'm not sure how it's going to translate from the original PSVR to PSVR 2, and I'm hoping to cover it later this month. So there it is, guys. There is some more games coming, but these are the ones I felt I needed to feature in this video. Make sure you leave me your favourite games coming in September, and I will see you all in the next video. Thank you ever so much.